Okay, so thank you and welcome everybody. Today I have Gillian here. She has a PhD in cross-cultural management and she's also head of the department within communication and culture here at BI. So thank you so much, Gillian, for being here today.
It's an honor to be with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So today we're going to be asking questions and just talking about what is diversity and multiculturalism, and when it's applied within the workforce or business practice. Is it a good thing to have diversity and multiculturalism in the workplace? So what is diversity and multiculturalism? Is it the same thing, or?
I'm glad you asked me that, because in fact, if we look at diversity in an organization is like a micro ecosystem. So diversity, we hope, will be the opportunity for everybody to grow and develop in an organization with inclusion in focus. The dark side of diversity can be inequality between people. The other area that you looked at, multiculturalism, again, an organization is a little bit like a small universe of its own. But the word multiculturalism, do you know where it comes from?
No.
It actually originally is a political economy and sociology phrase. It means in the world. And remember, the world has never been so global, so digital. We have never had so much contact with others in our lives before. But originally, the term started around the 1800s because we had societies where, the 3 waves of immigration to America, right? So we had to make sure that a society, through political legislator, was fair for everybody. It was multicultural, a salad bowl, if you like. So the US salad bowl, the idea of perhaps Australia, that there was equality for indigenous people, the Aborigines. So multiculturalism looks at a society, it's kind of like a macro level.
Yeah.
But my research, and in the Department of Communication and Culture here at BI, our focus is on thought leadership in how can you be a better manager, a better team player, how can you be a better person in the workhouse, in the workplace, by realizing that diversity can be harnessed. Diversity can lead to cross-fertilization of ideas. Diversity can lead to...
Cross-fertilization?
Cross-fertilization.
Okay, can you explain
Yeah.
fertilizer?
Yeah.
Well,
Just imagine your garden, and imagine we are all flowers in a garden. So Bumblebee comes along and takes a little idea from
I want
your...
to be a rose.
You can be the rose. Takes some of the pollen from yours, and then takes it to another area of the garden and creates an even more amazing rose garden.
Oh, wow.
So it's that idea of cross-pollinization, cross-fertilization, making an organization more sustainable and taking the best of many different people's ideas. Let's imagine for a moment, just for fun, you are the manager of Ullevål football team just down the road.
all right.
Not that I'm a big football person. Just imagine, tomorrow you're going to take over this multicultural team with huge diversity. And if we were to look at the way people communicate visually, this is how Scandinavians communicate visually. We're orderly, we do one thing at a time, we're very structured, we're very well organized. So we have a number of players in your team, and this is how they're going to communicate. And then you might have a Swedish person who develops a little bit more relationships very often in the workplace, who more, that little idea of still structured. And then we might have a player from Egypt, for example, who is charismatic, dynamic, thinks out of the box, like this. And then we have another couple of Norwegians. That's your team.
Yeah.
What would happen if you didn't manage that multicultural team? What's going to happen? You go to work and you think, it'll be fine. I won't say anything.
If I just ignored, yeah, I guess it would become chaotic.
It could. It could be chaotic. It could be too much self-leadership of everybody.
Yeah.
It could lead to conflict and suboptimal teams, not enough goals, not meeting KPIs. But if you decided...
Key performance indicators.
If you decided as the new manager of the football team, of the organization, that you're going to, through dialogue, through managing by walking around, you're going to consider what are the strengths of each person. And you're going to hold workshops continually to create a stronger team.
Okay, but I want to ask you, because it sounds to me like there is a problem here that has to be solved, that we are becoming a global environment and the workforce is very diversified, and how do you deal with that diversity? But why does it have to become multicultural or diversified in the first place? I mean, I think there was recently set up this law in Norway and different places in Europe where you have to have 50% of the board members being women, right?
40.
40%. Now, I actually started an investment group here at school, and the first people I took in were my friends, people whom I knew. And eventually, I kind of realized that strategically, I want to get in more females too to get their perspective, but not because I had to. Now, let's say in the real world, I was to, which I maybe plan on doing, who knows, but start an investment society and gather a fund of money, pool of money, and then I have to hire specific people for it. I feel like there's something wrong about that, because I want to only bring in people aboard who I believe in, who are talented. I don't want to be forced to create this diversity.
Yeah. And this is very interesting, because we're now moving over from cultural diversity to gender diversity.
Okay.
And I think that this is a really important point, because research that we've published in our department shows that if the cultural setting is a very conservative cultural setting, which means that there are very reserved roles for both genders in a society. Let's take the Middle East, for example. If you have a society where it is a stable and calm and effective society, but there are certain rules in society for who should hold which positions. How are you going to break through that glass ceiling? You have to have legislation in place. And then study shows that it makes sense. Half the world are male and half are female. So shouldn't we use gender equality culturally to build value in an organization? It makes sense to do that. And interestingly, recent research shows that if you have gender equality in the workplace, it leads to different thinking. You know, we might say that we think differently. We look at trust differently. We look at building relationships differently, negotiation styles, and the idea of how to lead. And this is very positive. And if you have gender equality as a culture, as in Scandinavia now, it means that because of the gender quota law, 40%, that men now all take parental leave. And that means that women step off the career ladder for their maternity leave, and then the gentlemen step off the career ladder for their parental leave. And it means that there's an equality of career opportunities. So it's not only diversity of thinking, diversity of management styles, it is merit, and it leads to a more sustainable society.
I definitely agree with you, and I think it's a no-brainer that having equality definitely creates a progressive society, as we've seen in Scandinavia. But I'm still having a hard time to see how, if I take the risk of starting a business, my credibility is completely on the line. I managed to maybe do fundraising of a couple of $100 million, right? And then I have to take in certain people just because it's imposed on me. It takes away my control of the situation, which I'm highly dependent on. And I'm having a hard time to see how that's the right way of going. I mean, I'm all for equality and such, but being imposed that I have to take on people, I'm going to take on people because they're talented.
Yeah.
Whether it's a female, male, or whatever color and ethnicity, it's all about individual talent.
It is. So you're looking at talent management for your organization. Let's just go back to the legislation for a moment, because did you realize that it's only for publicly limited companies that have the legislation? Okay. So it's not for startups.
Okay.
It's for the Fortune 500 companies in Norway that are listed on the stock exchange that already have, let's say, 4,000 staff members.
Yeah, right.
So they have a pipeline. They have many brilliant people in the organization that are in the career pipeline.
Okay.
And it's to inspire them to choose board members that represent diversity.
Okay, I didn't know that. That changes a little bit of things. Can we jump on to what is good and bad diversity?
I haven't researched what is good and bad diversity.
Or multiculturalism.
And multiculturalism. But what I would say is that if we're looking at what can be negative, is when we don't show engagement, respect and curiosity for the other party. So I actually, we only briefly met today, so I don't know your ethnic background or your religious background, but I would say that our engagement and curiosity creates cohesion, and that creates conflict avoidance.
Oh, yeah.
But if we ignore each other's background, if we don't show curiosity for each other, then we can build silos. And I might be the Protestant person, and you might be seen as the Catholic person, for example. And then we might not realize that we should not build silos. It's not one size fits all in a global society. It's all about engagement in each other, curiosity, and in an organization, building organizational culture for sustainability and inclusion.
Yeah. Is this something a business should grow organically or intentionally? Because our investment society, we are, first of all, my class is the BBA, so it's already in itself a very diversified class. And everybody in the group, we're up 15, 20 people, we're girls and boys and from all corners of the world. This is something that's grown organically, not intentionally, but maybe it was just set up to be able to do that. But is it something that should grow intentionally or organically?
Good point. I think that an organization in its early stages will, by definition, be organic, because it's all about innovation, entrepreneurship, and growing the company. But if we go back to research in education management, our department has a lot of research here, we often, if you go back to your first year of school, maybe you don't remember, but this idea of having class rules. Do you remember that your teacher might have said, shall we all agree that we will, put our hand up when we're going to speak, shall we agree that we will be nice to new people? You know, this idea of spilleregel in Norwegian.
Yeah.
And here we're looking at a conduct, the way we want to be as good colleagues, the way we want to develop great products, the way we want to have innovation and trust. So having ground rules is hugely important, and that develops organizational culture for excellence. And as a leader, you need to dare, our new leaders of the future, need to dare to stand up and say, this is the company we aspire to. We want to be us today, but even more so. And then we can aspire to our vision, and our vision needs to include diversity. It's no longer one size fits all. And in operational terms, you know, just this, never far from my side, our telephone. This is a symbol of how we choose to have an organizational culture. Cross-culturally, as a British person, I would feel it would be most inappropriate for me to call our president, Inge directly, because I come from a hierarchical society. So part of our code of conduct and our way we want to be in an organization is, who should we call? How do we build trust? How do we negotiate? Who makes the decisions? Because that's very different culturally. So if we can crack the code to understanding that IQ is not just intelligence, it's three things. It's of course our intelligence, but it's cultural intelligence. Understanding and realizing that being great is about understanding, being in your shoes, you being in my shoes.
Empathy?
Empathy. And then...
EQ.
Yeah. And then situational management. Who are we now? Who are we tomorrow? Which meeting are we in? Which negotiation? And this leads to the idea of remembering that each day you stand up and you have a choice today. You need to plan. Who are you meeting? What are you going to negotiate? Because every meeting is a negotiation.
Yeah.
What's the balance of power? And how can you ethically, through cultural understanding, realize hierarchy is a little different here, building trust is a little different here, to manage and harness the best of it.
It was interesting that you brought up how you're from England and it's different. What are the differences in levels of multiculturalism and diversity between nations, like England and Norway? And it's actually funny, my brother, he jokes sometimes about how English people, when English people start speaking, we just assume that English people are pretty smart, you know, because of how you guys kind of formulate yourself. Like in so many classes, like, oh, excuse me. It's like, oh, this is good. This is good. We want to pick up on this.
Yeah, yeah. Huge difference. I've lived in Norway now for just over 20 years, and I love the differences. I love the diversity between nations.
Yeah.
Visual things such as the formality of how one approaches someone and firm handshake, dress code. You know, the top of the iceberg is just what you see, isn't it? And that's different. It is the way that you prepare for a meeting, the way you might negotiate. But other differences, for example, are the way you build trust and relationships, how very hierarchical we are.
Yeah.
And
in England, right?
Yeah, we're much more hierarchical.
Yeah.
So as head of department here, people call me Gillian or Gilly.
G.
Yeah. No, not yet.
Not yet.
But in the UK, people might perhaps call me Dr. Warner-Søderholm. So it's this level of informality but it leads to innovation in Norway. That's what's so wonderful. People can knock on my door, give me a great idea, and let's run with it. So I think that's the great advantage.
I think you didn't get to the third point. You said empathy, situational understanding, and what was the third area?
Well, basic intelligence, know-how, being smart, knowing what your field is, because you are the expert in financial investments. So your IQ in your field is critical. But if you don't have social intelligence, and if you don't have situational management intelligence, you'll be suboptimal.
Yeah, that's actually true. Like, because you basically know the craft you're doing, whether it is hitting a nail with a hammer or investing. And afterwards, when you know the craft well, you basically just need to be empathy-oriented with whom you work with and have a situational understanding so you can maneuver in each environment.
Yeah, and find out what your allergy is. Do you have an allergy? Is this something? I have an allergy to silence. So if I'm in an elevator in Norway, I'm in the elevator, a Norwegian person comes in, excuse me, dear Norwegian friends, and what do? They look at the buttons. They look at the buttons. And for me, I have an allergy to silence. So I am someone that uses silence as an opportunity to build relationships, because this means that we enjoy our lives more. We have someone we can call to, a go-to, building trust. So it's normal for me to chat, small talk.
I have an allergy to not saying hi to people I've said hi to before. So when I grew up, my parents would be like, okay, this is that person, and next time you see them, you go and say hi and present. So when I'd be with friends and they'd introduce me to a friend, next time I saw that person, I automatically be like, hey, friend to friend, how are you? But often they'd kind of react weirdly, and I'd be like, there's something wrong with me. So I've kind of learned to shut that off.
You didn't hug them?
No, I didn't go that far.
Oh, good. Yeah. And, you know, in Norway, I love this phrase, takk for sist, because you can use it. Thanks for last time. You know, I could say thanks for the last time, Victor, tomorrow, or 10 years down the line.
I know.
Isn't that wonderful?
I think it's really cool. I've tried to say it in English, but it doesn't have the same,
it doesn't.
Thanks for the last time.
Doesn't work. No. So I love a lot of Scandinavian relationship building and sayings. But it's different, and because we know that difference, because we respect the difference, that's what thought leadership is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can students or businesses or people or active business people implement diversity and multiculturalism in order to maximize the positive aspects of these two ideas? How can I put this into practice and maximize the positive aspects to it? Because I can do it individually by being empathetic and situationally oriented and basic intelligence, but how can I create a collective positive outcome?
I think that you need to dare to lead. I think you need to dare to understand followers of you as a great leader will expect you to shape and make decisions, not cozy coach leadership, but not a Genghis Khan leader, somewhere in the middle.
Right, okay.
And I think that if you understand that your recruitment procedure, are you looking for meritocracy, which you are? You're looking for the best person for the job. But be open.
For people who don't know meritocracy, it's people who rise because of merits and what they achieve.
Not, thank you, not because of gender or others.
Not because of forced legislation.
Yeah. So if you have a great recruitment opportunity in your organization, let's imagine that you embrace digitalization and that you Twitter and celebrate, we are a great organization, would you like to join us? Then you're going to get the very best of the very best people. And that gives you a talent pool.
Yeah.
And from the talent pool, you need to choose new recruits that really believe in your vision.
Yeah.
And then you have to manage by walking around. You have to shape your organization. Don't sit in your corner office thinking, well, I've recruited all these people now. You need to have continual workshops, mentoring, pair people up with a more experienced person, teamwork twice a year, to create the team you really want to, and dare to lead.
Yeah.
Dare to lead in brilliance.
Okay, is there any other aspects to this topic that you would like to share with us today? I think it's a very interesting topic.
Thank you. I think that the research project I'm in now, which is with Hofstede, Luttrell, a lot of other people.
Tell us Leaders Toolbox also afterwards.
Oh yes, Leaders Toolbox. So at BI, we're very lucky that we organise once a month for our alumni lifelong learning. So it's thought leadership workshops once a month for BI alumni, students, ex-students. Do you realise 1 in 4 people in Norway have studied at BI? Isn't that cool? 1 in 4 people.
Well, it kind of makes sense because I feel like the whole of the business community in Norway consists of BI people.
Yeah. So that means that our alumni can come once a month to a breakfast session, and in my breakfast session I'll be presenting some data which looks at how can you as a leader understand the rhetoric and the communication style that your people expect. So that, for example, if we are in Norway, would it surprise you that we prefer to have a leader who is not, he or she is not going to be too charismatic with rich rhetoric? We prefer a leader in comparison to the data from Russia and Spain and the US. We prefer a manager who is calm, factual and straight to the point. We do not enjoy a leader who oversells, push, push, push. So that, for example, communication, leadership is all about communication, and communication is all about leadership. And that is culturally specific. So really, every morning when you wake up, think about who am I going to meet, how is the power balance, and how am I going to manage this?
Why do we want a very calm leader? Why is that?
I think that culturally in Scandinavia, we enjoy openness, we enjoy mountains, forest. You know, when you've been in downtown Rio de Janeiro, a bit different from downtown Moss, for example.
Yeah. But because Anna Solberg, she's cool, like she's charismatic, but the Prime Minister of Sweden, he's not that cool at all. He's pretty boring. I mean, Stefan Löfven.
Do you think so? I hope he's not watching this video.
No, probably not. He's got more on his hands right now.
We must send the video to Anna if she...
But for instance, because the leaders of a country kind of represent the country as a whole, and the people. They are a reflection. And you can tell a huge difference between, for instance, Putin in Russia and Justin Trudeau in Canada, and they gotta get promoted in a different way. One took over Crimea, the other one wears colorful socks, you know, and they're both known for different things.
I think you've made a very good point, because it's quite right that often our leaders, the leaders we elect, reflect
the people.
The people.
Yeah.
And they are brilliant minds, but they have to deal with the changing geopolitical pictures in the world. Arne Solberg does a brilliant job. Yesterday, did you see on the news, talking with Theresa May, and the idea of how can we together, build trust, but still calm and very reflective and enjoying silence. Rather different to if we were to meet with the Prime Minister in France, which is a different style of rhetoric. So fascinating how culture impacts what we expect of a manager and how we expect they will interact with us.
And that probably takes us, I'm going to summarize a little bit what we've gone through. That kind of takes into account empathy, situational understanding in order to maneuver in different situations depending on what it requires, And that is correlated with empathy, because then you understand the counterpart. And then you have the basic intelligence within the field that you're active in. So I definitely agree with you. Those are the 3 areas that you kind of want to have an understanding of. Basic intelligence within your field, whether it's hitting a nail with a hammer or investing. Situational understanding, so you can maneuver in situations. And empathy in general, so you can empathize with your surroundings.
Yeah, and believe in yourself. Believe that you are going to be a great leader and that you will give back to society, which you are already.
Yeah. Figure out how you can create value for your society, and the society will value you. Thank you so much for coming, Gillian.
Oh, it's a huge pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Take the best care. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.